5, 4,
Four,
3,
three,
2,
two,
1.
one.
You are listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is Sunday, June 3rd, and we are covering Stage 4, Week 3 of the Overwatch League.
Are you sure it's not week 5 yet, Lepalose? Are you sure we're not done with the regular season and take a break?
Would that be nice right about now, Jax? I mean, fatigue, we've talked about this at length. I mean, we've gone into
Over and
this
over,
as,
yeah.
like, it was that in Stage 2 we talked about it, I think, a little bit in depth then, when there was a particularly dry week. Then we've been feeling it a little bit entering this stage, and I have to agree with you. I am fatigued, and it is not a great place to play. I know maybe there are lots of fans that are really hyped there. Listen, we're not the hype podcast for you guys. If you want to hear about everything that is like super great about it, there are great podcasts out there.
Yeah.
If I'm keeping it real in terms of how I'm feeling as somebody that has to pay a pretty good attention to a lot of games in order to discuss here on the podcast, I am getting tired. I do a lot of other things in my life, obviously, too. Maybe if I didn't, Jax, maybe I wouldn't be so tired of the Overwatch league and Overwatch scene, but yeah, no, I'm feeling a little bit tired, and so I feel like there are valid concerns when we talk about the future of this league, about viewership, because there is no way that you can keep everyone interested in every single of your game. There's no way that you can keep 100,000 viewers for every single game if you expand it by what, 6-8 teams. There's no way you're going to get those viership numbers anymore.
See, the problem is there are certain teams my stage 1 Florida Mayhem. I even said on the podcast I don't pay attention when that team plays. Even now I really don't pay much attention to the Florida Mayhem, especially with side player being injured. Hopefully, he can come back from that pretty quickly. Same with AKM. Like the caster said something about surgery for AKM. I'm like, what surgery? Like what happened there? But for me at least, there's 2 games a week that I can get into where I can get hyped up for my gladiators are playing. For you who you don't have a Canadian team yet. You're not too invested in any one franchise. But what I was trying to say is you have teams like Florida and Shanghai, and before this stage, Dallas. And even this stage, you can replace Dallas with maybe the Boston Uprising. But that one is still interesting because you can look at that and look at a team fall because, when people are up
Jekyll
top, we
Hyde kind
love
of a
to watch them fall,
situation.
right? That's just
Yeah.
the way, the nature of things. But if they're just think about this, Lepos. Think about the quality of play that we have now in the bottom teams, right? And so you think about that, and then you say, or you ask yourself, or you ask Nate Nanzer, you want to bring in 6 more teams. Are there quality players to fill 6 teams, Lepelos? And keep your product at a level people will be interested in?
I think I mean, while that's a good question too, it also says something about at least where they are in terms of development of player skill in general too, which is there is a strong disparity between teams that are playing at the top of the level, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if that's a lack of skill per se, or just the fact that the game itself, and you can probably attest from this, whoever is listening, in your own matches, where even a slight mismatch in skill can lead to very disparate games, right?
I mean, well, part of the problem is the sniper problem or the double sniper problem now because you see a lot of Widow Hanzo in regular in regular games on ladder, and then you see a little bit more double sniper in Overwatch League. But it's just right now, since we're talking about being tired, and I think part of my problems is the game problem is that the game is not as interesting to me. It's not the patch, it's just you have 12 teams, right? 3 of those teams, level, so a quarter of the league, are 0-6. They have not won a game. Their map line, -11 for the Boston Uprising, -16 for the Florida Mayhem, -19 for the Shanghai Dragons. That's what, 6 games that I don't care about because these
Yeah.
teams are bad. Like,
Yeah, 6 games a week that end up being blowouts, and watching that many blowouts are not fun for viewers. And
I mean, Boston is made. Boston, they've made it. Like this week, they've played the best they've played. It's just it's hard for me to get up and get going, and so that's why the title, or we haven't figured the title exactly, but it's going to be something along the lines of I'm tired, and I'm going to ask Lepalos if he's tired. But I can tell you in the pregame and what you heard him just say, Lepalos is a little bit tired here. And it just had me thinking, when you talked about the expansion that they want to bring in, it's like we have seen some good teams, in contenders, right? We've seen, some in PIT, some in Beat, but I'm saying, can these teams hang with the New York Excelsior? Can they hang with the Valiant, with the Shock who are improving, with the Gladiators? And it's like, I don't
and having
know.
no draft either, Jax. No way
I mean,
of dispersing talent
it'll be
amongst the
interesting how
league.
they do it. Like, I'm pretty sure teams might be able to throw a franchise tag on a few of their players, but then, it might be along the lines of, okay, you protected these people, right?
Well,
They are safe.
yeah, like can you
But
imagine that for Gladiators? You get like 2 tags, right? Like who do you tag? Do you tag Big Goose and Shaz, your support duo, or Fissure and Surefour, right?
I
Like
mean,
huge issues if you had to do that. But that like those
the
usually don't happen unless there's
yeah.
a union. And this is a whole nother rabbit hole of a conversation that we could have, obviously. Just as much as I want to get into again the regional dynamics that have not come about. Maybe I'm not seeing the numbers in the fandom. Maybe that's because I'm in one of the many places in the world that doesn't have a team.
Right.
But
I mean, you have a team soon. World Cup coming around. Team Canada. Jane has already put out some names. Lepalos, XQC, Mangachu, Sure4. People who probably have guaranteed slots. I think the only slot they didn't have was a support. And surprisingly, if I'm thinking to myself, he did not mention Joe Meister. Oh, 1 second. Let me see. Poor Joe Meister. Let me see. Oh, sorry. It was Note, Mangachu, Agilities, and Sure4. You don't have a support player there, Lepalos.
listen, that could be
Huh.
trouble. We'll see what happens. I'm
Huh.
not too worried about that. I don't want to get too much into that either,
Too
Jax.
early for World Cup? Okay. Okay. Okay.
We're not
Fair
getting
enough.
that regional because you know what, Overwatch League itself is still not regional despite everything that they try and tell you. I know some of them have gone to their regions. It is still
Yeah.
outreach. And Jax, when we're talking about season 2, possibly season 3, not in their regions, and you talk about fatigue, we're
Did
gonna
you
have
see the
viewer
block
fatigue
party
here.
Houston had like 2 weeks ago, man? It's insane. Block party down there in Texas. Like the fan base is there. The game isn't there, but the fan base is there.
The fan base is there. Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. Like when they do events, I'm just saying though, you wait for another 2, possibly 3 years of not actually having games where these towns are, you are going to lose viewership pretty heavily. In fact, like when you've looked at the stats, or if you look at the stats, there is a strong tendency for those stats to be last game in the day will have the most viewership, which tells me people aren't tuning in to watch their individual team, right? Like they're either following
Well, certain
storylines
teams will pull a
or
lot. The Dynasty pull a
yeah,
lot.
that is true.
The Fuel pull a lot. But no, even when I don't look at stats and I just use the eyeball test and I'm looking at the Twitch numbers, I'm like, okay, that's this whole series, this whole was under 100,000, and it was pretty crappy game. It's tired, Lepalos. I'm tired.
I don't blame you. So you could say this is a tired podcast we have today. And tired podcast. Okay, no, I'm sorry.
Hopefully,
Listen,
gotta
that
keep
was
our
a
energy
tired pun
levels
for
up.
you too while we're there. But um, listen. We are going to go through the games today. Not only that, though, we have some more things to cover in the actual rundown as
Yeah.
well this week, Jax. Finally, we have some additional things that the Blizzard, who obviously we trust, has allowed to happen at the same time of Overwatch League. Not during the exact same times, but because Sundays and Mondays are clearly great to run a tournament for organizers and players. But anyways, let's not go there, right? That might hit too close to home.
Lepalos jump into the first game of the week.
Yeah, we had an NYXL taking on the Philadelphia Fusion right off the start of the week. This had, well, I mean, okay, I'm gonna phrase it like this, Jax. You and I picked the same team here,
Right.
and it should be a surprise to nobody when that team was NYXL.
I mean, they pretty much don't have anything else left to play for in this regular season. With the collapse of Boston, no one else is in a position to quote unquote catch them or even, come anywhere near their record. So they have first place and, overall locked up. They've already so they finished top of their division. They get a bye automatically to, was it the semifinals of the playoffs, I believe. So, the casters and analysts already talk about how much money they've already made. They made what, 600,000. I
Yeah.
think that's including. So I think the number they put out is including the minimum amount they'll make from the end of season playoffs, but not including what they could potentially make if they win stage 4, or or however they end up placing in stage 4. So the New York Excel looking pretty good right now. I guess it's about trying to stay sharp, right? Keep your players fresh and interested. You don't want to lose their edge, because this is the only competition they will have until from now until the playoffs. And the playoffs levels, there's a 3-week break in between the end of the regular season and the playoffs. And say, I mean, if you think about it, right, who would you scrim against? The only other teams who have anything else left to play for are in the playoffs with you, Leplos.
So
So who do you scrim?
yeah, no, this is a very good question. So
So
they're
right now,
prob
keep your edge, man. You don't want to lose your edge. It's a little early.
Speaking
We'll
of
see.
trying to find edges, so Fusion has to do something. In fact, what they do this week, Jax, a Shadowburn starting off here for the Fusion in their lineup. They
EQO?
clearly feel like they have to go deep here in order to try and surprise New York Excel with something, and that something they feel was Shadowburn this time around. Jax, I was here on the over.gg for the stat page here just to look out, and I felt the best way to summarize this matchup is by this comment, the top comment by Castform R, who says, "I feel like this could be one of the best games this stage slash season. Edit, nope, lol." Great
I
comment,
mean,
because that's how I felt about this game too. I mean, they kept it close on Blizzard World. Ended up going the side of NOXL 3-1 here with a good fight on A point and into B point. But then Hanamura was 2-0 for NYXL Oasis, 2-0 there. And then Dorado was closed out in another 3-1. And Jax,
Leplos,
Fusion
let's just
looking
take a look at
quiet.
the numbers. I think on Discord I posted the screenshot of Jonek's numbers for this series, which were absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna put New York Excel aside because we already know what we can expect from that team, and it's no surprise when they play and dominate like they did. But you brought up Shadowburn, who was stepping in the starting spot for EQO. On Blizzard World, Shadowburn's elims to death -3 Lepelos. You go to Hanamura, it's -5. Oasis -2. Dorado -7. -7. Neptuno on Dorado, Lepelos, -7. Boombox on Dorado, -9. Sado, -7. The only one with a positive KD or ED on Dorado was Carpe. Carpe, believe it or not, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, Carpe is the
Carpe,
only
yeah.
one who had anywhere near a decent series. And I don't know what to say. It's not just New York, just being New York. It's Philly just played really poorly here.
Yeah, the worst part about this too for Philly is it allowed NYXL on stage to basically get some free practice off of you not playing very well. I'm not sure if it was in their head mentally or poor preparation, but this issue for Fusion hasn't been new. We've seen them in the last half of stage 3 start to struggle, whereas
Yeah.
in stage 2 obviously they were really heating up, obviously off of Carpe doing a lot. Carpe went away there, if you remember, there at the
Yep.
last week.
He literally went away there at
He
the last
literally
game.
went away, and he's returning back to form. I have no doubt about that, but the rest of the team has not solidified. And I think there are deeper issues in this team that we don't entirely know, particularly while they are trying to run Sato and Hoppa, and that this was supposed to be a strength for them. and we have yet to see that come out as a strength for them.
I wonder about the communication there. I mean, I know the communication between Sato and Hotba is probably good because, since Fraggy and Poco were together, that left these two when Sato was suspended to work on, their synergy, which is always good when you have that between your tank and their off tank. But when I look at some other curious numbers here, right? Not so much Jonak, but the only reason I bring up Jonak is because I'm going towards Boombox now. And this season, we've seen so much of the bloodthirsty support, so much of the bloodthirsty Zenyatta. And I can tell you that Boombox didn't have a positive elims to death on any map, not a single map. Whereas Jonak had positive elims to death on every single map. Sorry, it was 0. Okay, but 0 is still positive. It's not negative. So he had positive elims to death on every map, whereas Boombox was negative on every map. Those are your, quote unquote, third DPS players, because that's what Zen is a DPS. And the synergy, the teamwork is just not there. They bring in Shadowburn to try to mix things up a little bit, his style a little bit different from EQO. It's not enough. We'll see if it's enough for them in the second game of the week. But in this first game, all New York all the time.
Yeah, speaking of one-sided affairs, Jax, one of these teams that you said gets beat up easily in the next one, we're talking Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah.
We don't really need to say much else here about that because it's 3-2 Kings Row, 1-0 Hanamura, 2-0 Lijiang Tower, 3-2 Dorado, all Seoul Dynasty. Listen, Seoul Dynasty has been pushed to the brink by Dragons. It was not today. I can't keep on trying to toss Shanghai Dragon bones. We got to keep it real here.
Is Kings Row, where they held the Dynasty from capping out. The Dynasty got into the final phase, and I'm saying, okay, Shanghai, you have your chance, you have your distance. They didn't meet it. For the rest of, if you just take a look at Hanamura Lepalose, 0%. They didn't even get a tick on first point of Hanamura. You go to Lijiang Tower, 29%, 25%. In the two maps that they played, and then again they couldn't get in. They couldn't complete Dorado. So this team, I hate to just dismiss a team, but as much as I've tried to pull for Shanghai, I can't. I cannot afford to exert energy for this team anymore.
Jax, I agree with you. Although as we get close, there is a
when Free Feel is not a starter, I'll pay attention. There, I said it. That's all I'm gonna say about Free Feel rest of the week. I'm done.
All I'm going to say, Jax, I'm not going to disagree with you on all of the stuff about Shanghai Dragons, because if it happens, and I'm not going to say what because I don't want to curse myself, but if it happens, I'm going to find where I made a certain prediction, and I'm going to play that back on this podcast, and that's all I'm going to say. All right.
I do have to give him some credit. I just looked at the numbers on Kings Row, which is the map I feel they played the best. Free Feel was one of two players with a positive elims to death Lepalose. Positive 1 for Free Feel. Positive
better than Boombox versus NYXL.
You're not wrong. Oh my God, he's trying to make me feel. I can't. It's still Free Feel, free feed, free food, however you want to think about it. He at least had a decent game, a better series than Boombox did, but he's playing a lesser opponent, Lepalose. We're on to the third game.
Well, Jack, before we do, because I started off the other one with the top comment on OverGG, I feel it would be a shame to do the same here to Dixer on Over.gg, because this one, honestly, same vein. Honestly, if Seoul keep playing that poorly, Shanghai could win this. Never mind. Yeah. Basically the exact same comment.
This is why I get somewhat tired of watching Shanghai, because you watch them. Okay, I'm looking at they have a chance. A buddy of mine, Poli, he's looking at. He's like Jax. They could do this, and then you look at the second map, Hanamura. You're like, nope. The Shanghai, they're done, and that's it. You just whatever goodness you had after map 1, it's gone, just gone.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Jax, we enter into game 3, and it's the Battle of LA. You and I had both picked Gladiators because they had been looking really good in this stage.
I was expecting, I'm still expecting the Gladiators to present a challenge to New York, who is all but unbeatable right now.
Yeah, and here they are taking the LA Valiant on what is their home turf of
Shields
Blizzard
up,
World.
Wings out, Lepalose.
Come on, same. Are you guys so uncreative in LA? Like, come on. I thought you guys were supposed to be a hotbed of artists down there, and unfortunately, you guys end up with the same chant. Essentially, is it wings up, shields out? I honestly get them confused with how it sounds. Anyways, Jax, This game, well, Blizzard World, isn't Blizzard World one of the strengths for Gladiators going in here?
Gladiators are coming into this. We're undefeated. I think it was 8-0. If not 8-0, then they were for sure 7-0.
I believe it was 7-0. And they exit it 8-0, Jax. Unfortunately, that 8-0 is not a win. I guess it's 7-0-1.
It's not 8-0. It's 7-0-1.
1. Yeah, 7-0-1. Listen, there are some strategies that people wish they could have if they were tank mains. That would be 7-0-1. But here, 7-0-1 is not what the scoreline Gladiators want on this map. They draw out here on Blizzard World. That's unfortunate. I mean, good play coming out of LA Valiant here to force the draw, but
I didn't. So the reason why I picked the Gladiators for this is for the last stage and a half, basically, I have not been sold on Los Angeles Valiant. I'm still not sold on the Valiant, but they or not they soon went off here.
yes,
It comes,
listen.
Part of the reason the Gladiators have risen to the top is the Widow play that has come out of Sure 4. Soon absolutely crushed him on Widow here. Like Lepalose, can I just give you some numbers? Soon +7. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong map. I apologize. Soon +6 on Blizzard World. Sure 4 +3. You say that's only 3. Nah, the impact was much bigger than a 3 elim to death difference. That's why you can't always just follow the numbers. Soon completely destroyed Sure 4 in the Widow game. That literally won them this map.
Yeah, I'd also comment that the work coming out of Hydration was actually really bad too. I don't.
Can I give you another set of numbers then, Lepo? Since you
Yeah,
brought up Hydration, I was gonna let
Hydration versus Agilities, but
with his head
no,
down.
no, I'm sorry.
Agilities, the second DPS player for the Los Angeles Valiant, +7. Hydration, DPS player for the Los Angeles Gladiators, -9.
I think
-9 to a +7. That is the difference, Lepos.
And so while I agree with you that Soon had more important kills here, I think the depth here hurt Gladiators, and Agility's been playing well. Here it comes through.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about the second map, Rising Lunar Colony. Jax, this went into second attacks, and well, no time to capture out for Gladiators on that second B point attack allowed Valiant with plenty of time when they capped this out, 90% to get that fourth checkpoint. Oh, sorry, no, that's correct. Disappointing again from Gladiators in allowing basically no defense and Valiant to step right over them here to get that first map win. And you have to be worried. I mean, listen, part of the reason why I think I picked Gladiators is, first off, the first map was supposed to go their way. Now, that didn't go their way, and now they've lost, going into the break, a map. So, concerning.
The numbers haven't gotten any better for the Gladiators on Horizon. Bishu, the only one with a positive elims to death. The thing that stood out to me, which I didn't notice at the time, was a -6 for Fisher, which, Fisher has an aggressive style. It's just he's only one less than Shaz, who was at -7, and Hydration's sitting there with 12 and 12. So he's zeroed himself out, whereas Sure 4 is at -2. The Valiant played the Gladiators game, and by played them I mean they outplayed them, they outpicked them. Whatever the Gladiators wanted to do, the Valiant quickly adjusted and made sure that the Gladiators couldn't do it. So when the Gladiators are forced to switch and go to something that their original plan didn't work, they go to plan B. Plan B didn't work, you go to plan C. When none of your plans are working and all you're doing is dying, that's why I'm looking at so much green for the Valiant, so much red for the Gladiators, and you're taking us into the third map of Oasis.
Third map, Oasis, and Oasis was a close one, but it's a Pharah map. Jax, who do you think's going to win out? Hydration versus Agilities here.
I mean, they're both pretty good Pharahs.
Hydration did do well on this map relative to his other maps, and if you just go by the stats, there's a couple of things that pop out. Again, it's not Soon popping off, Soon not having a great game here. For Valiant, it's Agilities and Fate doing really well, and then on the other side, Fisher, who has been their linchpin, not overperforming. He's doing about an average job as a tank, and I don't think Gladiators can get away with that with their lineup right now. They need their main tank to be exceptional with
Fisher
how they
had
perform.
not, I say had as if it's over, but Fisher has his name, in the running for MVP because of the impact that he's had for the Gladiators. The thing is, with what he plays, he can't really impact agilities. Well, okay, we have seen him impact agilities on Oasis, where he pops the Primal Rage in the clip from what 2 stages ago, and he just bullies him with the Primal Rage and kills him and the Mercy player. But here, agilities overall with the +10 soon, by the way, has fallen off -10 here. So, but the still, even with that -10 from Soon, agilities, like it's impact. It's not, yes, the numbers are there, but it's the impact and the weight that agility's rockets were carrying, whereas hydration was just, shooting one here, shooting one there, and wasn't getting as much done. Sure 4 did step up, right? His numbers improved, but Fisher, the one missing the most, Fate managing Fisher in the tank battle, the whole team really managing Fisher, and the rest of the Gladiators unable to step it up and carry. Shaz, who I think is is a top level Zen, just not having it, not able to get the output that he normally does. And so with that, Lepelos, that's the series.
That's the series. Yeah, I mean, talking about Dorado really
Battle for LA
quickly.
over.
I don't want to talk about it long. Dorado actually also goes Valiant's way. A pretty close affair there. Valiant do capture out third with 22 seconds remaining, so had time on the clock. Gladiators unable to push the distance in that third. They're low on time. And if you go by numbers again, which we have been today, you will see that they are not too different in terms of kills and eliminations. And what this tells me is that Valiant positioning themselves and maneuvering very well here to take every little advantage they can. And unfortunately, that how to say this right, the larger scale movement and conceptual movement is not being there by the Gladiators. When you have similar kills and deaths on both sides of your teams, it tells me that one team is not playing the objective as well as the other, and I'd have to say that's the Gladiators. In fact, they lose out here in a 3-0 to Valiant in this Battle of LA.
This was a close series, but this was honestly a fantastic coaching job by, I think it was his name, Coach Moon, for the Los Angeles Valiant. He prepared his team to beat the Gladiators, Lepos. Absolutely prepared his team. The casters, the analysts all pointed out the counter picking that the Valiant did throughout the series. Because if you take a look at the Gladiators and their DPS lineup, they can flex to a lot of things. When you have Sure 4 and Hydration, there are a lot of things that can be played. Hydration, Junkrat, Pharah, Baguette, Genji, like whatever, anything projectile related or off tankish, they can cover, especially when they have Void and Bishu. So all tanks are on the table. Fisher, if you want to go Rhine or Winston, or if you go to the supports, right? Chaz, he's mainly a Zen guy, but Big Goose, Lucio or Mercy. The ability for the Gladiators to flex is one of their strongest attributes, and that was negated this series because the Valiant were like, whatever you do, we're going to beat you at it. Fantastic work here. But I mean, this level of preparation is what I want to see more from my Gladiators going forward and from other teams. Like, take your opponent's strength and take it away from them. Big win. Wings out, Lepelos. Wings out, sadly.
Huge.
And this, in terms of the playoff picture, this almost cements the Valiant now at the top of the Pacific Division. There's a slight chance because they play New York later this week. They have a few close games later on, or important games later on in this season, but a huge win for them, and for the Gladiators a little bit of a hit because now they're back in that race for that 6th spot, and there's 3 or 4 teams going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and move into the next day, day 2, and only day 2. We're going to speed it up from here, Jax.
Go for it.
This game, sort of interesting, but another one of those teams that you said not impressive. And, of course, we're talking the Uprising as they host.
Can you believe that?
London Spitfire.
They had a unbeaten Stage 3, going back to Stage 2 regular season. It was, 14, 15 game winning streak? And now we're talking about them being irrelevant?
I mean, at the same time, Spitfire as well, not been doing well this stage either. In fact, they've been on the downslope for a while. It's been a struggle for them to do well.
Can I just point out something then? Both these two teams who you talk about have been on the downslide. London, downslide ever since they got rid of Coach Bishop. Boston, downslide ever since they got rid of Coach Krusty.
Yeah.
Coaching matters, man.
Maybe some of these newer teams have to think a little bit more about that as they move into the future and try and find people. Obviously, there's lots of people out there, but not everyone's coach is the same or the same quality.
Yeah.
It's not always simply the players, in my opinion, and I think we're starting to see that more and more. In this game, well, let's go through it. Blizzard World going way of Spitfire. That one ends in a 3-2 with Spitfire holding out in that second phase. Right at the end there against the Uprising. Horizon Lunar Colony ends in a draw that went to the B point on second attacks. I mean, come on, it's 2CB. So do I need to say more about that, really? Like, I don't want to go into that. Oasis, Jax, how does Uprising lose Oasis to the Spitfire? It's not the first time a team's lost to the Spitfire on Oasis, but I'm still not impressed anytime any team loses to the Spitfire on Oasis. Maybe they've been working on it. Maybe that's what they've been doing, but it still ended up being pretty close here in a 2-1. But Spitfire able to get the win there on that map. So that basically means you just play out for the map score. Or sorry, did I get that wrong? No, I did not get that wrong, because it was on the fourth map. Uprising finally show up here and show up strong on Dorado, finishing out with a 3-2 and 165 seconds. That's just shy of 3 minutes, Jax. Yeah, okay. Like, you're going to show up that way for the last map. I'm glad I mentioned you want to be able to do that, but man,
it might be more of London taking. I think it might be more of London taking their foot off the gas and, taking, okay, we got this win. We're out of here, finally being elated at winning Oasis after having, their struggles on Oasis are well documented. Boston is still trying to find their way. I did this. Boston has just been really hit hard by this stage because they lost their coach and they lost their main weapon, which is Striker playing the Tracer. And when you look at some of what they're doing here, like if you go to look at Horizon Lunar Colony, you say, okay, Striker is on Widow, but then they had mistakes at times playing Tracer. Or you go to Oasis and you see mistakes on Tracer and Striker playing the Widow and the Junkrat. And they're trying to figure out this meta level. So they're trying to figure out what to do because, sure, they can start out, right? You can start, okay, they're going to run their dive comp, but then the baguette comes out from the other side, the anti-dive comes out from the other side, and now you have to flex it out. So they're trying to figure out what are they going to do? And the reason why I say they hit doubly hard is Krusty, and we still don't have a way to gauge the value of a coach and what they bring to a team. But the results kind of speak for themselves. When you look at San Francisco Shock, we're going to come up on, and the Boston Uprising, you say Krusty must know his stuff. He must know what he's doing to get these kinds of results. And for Boston, him not being there when they need him the most, he developed their dive Lepalose. And now when they need to develop something else, he's not there, and the team is struggling to put it all together.
Absolutely. They look like they're going to have a struggle for the remainder of. I'm just taking a look. Well, they do play Shanghai Dragons next week.
Okay.
And they finish the stage 5 or stage 4 week 5 with a Florida Mayhem fight too. So
that should
they probably won't go winless in this stage, Jax.
Right.
But they definitely are not making playoffs in the stage, and they haven't looked good. So that's hardly something you want to say.
Right now, they're still, their record was so good that these losses, it's hurt, but it hasn't removed them from the playoffs like it might have done another team. But they need a win, and they might need 2 wins. And thankfully, the 2 teams you just mentioned, Florida and Shanghai, could be just what they need to make it to the end of the season playoffs.
Yeah, we'll come to their futures, starting with next week in our predictions at the end of the podcast. Let's move on, discuss that other team where Krusty did move to. San Francisco Shock here, taking on Dallas Fuel. You had predicted Fuel to win both games this week to go what would be 6-0. This game, Jax, I predicted San Francisco Shock.
No, the Fuel have lost to my Gladiators in the first week of the of the stage, and Coach
5-1. My bad.
Yeah, Coach DP of the Gladiators, as I mentioned last week, put out that tweet that said one of the biggest upsets of the stage will be the Gladiators beating Dallas because apparently they got them before Dallas had figured it all out. I think here though, I said Dallas could potentially win out the rest of the stage. That's how good I feel that they were playing.
That might...
How Coach Arrow from Fusion University has gone in there. I'm focusing on the coaches now because the results, as I say, speak for themselves. Although with Dallas, the meta has helped them, so it's a twofold thing for Dallas in a good way, unlike the negative way for Boston. New coach that's helping them, meta that fits them, and this is why I said Dallas Fuel could beat the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah, Jax, let's go ahead and talk about it though, because that is not what happened. Instead,
Oh
what we
boy.
get here is 3-2 Kings Row for Shock, 4-3 Hanamura Fuel, 2-0 Oasis, and then closed out on Watchpoint Gibraltar in a 4-3 for the 3-1 victory over the Fuel. I'm feeling good about the Shock. Like they showed up here. It was
Again,
not an easy match,
now
but
I picked Dallas, but I have been talking up the Shock this entire stage because of their flexible roster, because of Krusty who they brought in. So while yes, my pick was wrong, I'm not surprised because the only thing I'm a bit surprised about is them moving Baby Bay back in on some maps in place of Architect. But that's something, he only played in one of the four, but it's different. The only thing, I thought perhaps, Baby Bay can make his way back in. Maybe we might see IDDQ Lepalose. So you even forgot he was signed with the San
yeah,
Francisco Shock.
listen.
Everybody has forgotten. IDDQD still on the roster. You
I mean,
know?
just like some other players that are on the All Star voting list that people probably don't even know that are there. He's one example of them for the Shock. Uh, I I think here, Jax, it was very interesting to see the Fuel struggle so much on their defenses when formerly that was their strength. And I say that because I'm just going to read out some numbers of how strong the Shock did on attack here and why they must have had a really good read of the Dallas Fuel's setups. And I say that because defending, you get set up and you react, and the Fuel really good has seemed to be really good at that relative to their attack. Shock, precision and surgical in their takeouts of that defense. Kings Row finished with 243 seconds. Fuel on their attack has made the difference here, but I mean 2 CP. I'm not going to go into it. Jumped forward to Watchpoint Gibraltar, going into second attacks, 55 seconds on the clock when the Shock finished that. So when you look at the times on the hybrid and escort, by the way, which I know you love talking about, Jax,
Yeah.
both of those taken by the Shock, both of those taken with multiple fights left in the time back. Particularly Kings Row, when you had 243 seconds, that's probably about 5 fights worth of time that you had left in your clock, or so. Maybe 4 or 5, but a lot of time is what I'm trying to say.
I talked him up a lot when he was coming in, when they signed him because he was one of the big names that had been that wasn't signed for the beginning of Overwatch League, and I'm talking about AKM. I think Arrow might have outplayed himself when he pulled Taimu and put in AKM. Taimu has just he's on a streak, and I feel like you kind of have to ride that streak until it runs its course. But they lost Kings Row in a pretty bad way, as you point out. 243 seconds left for the Shock. Hanamura, they won handily. They completely ran over the San Francisco Shock. And then you go to Oasis and you pull Taimu and you put in AKM. And let's give you some numbers. This is Oasis is just it's King of the Hill. It's fighting levels, right? It's a team fight. There's not much strategy there. 100 to 56, 100 to 10. That's not a team fight. That's your team getting beat down, And then you go to Watch Point, and again, it's closer, but it's not close enough, obviously, because San Francisco Shock won. And last week, AKM was injured, or something was wrong there, and he tweeted, he wasn't, people need to give Taimu some credit because he played on maps that he hadn't practiced. Watchpoint is an AKM map, so Taimu stepped in there and he performed pretty well. And here we're seeing AKM in for Taimu. It's like, I think you might, if you're Arrow, you might lean more on Taimu than AKM, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, that's only as long as time is doing well. Jax, let's move
Yeah,
on, though. We'll talk next game. Next game, of course, being between
fields
your
up,
LA Gladiators
fields up,
yet
Lepros.
again as they take on Philadelphia Fusion. Both teams here having played the day before, and now they're playing again the day after. I know how
That
much you love that.
scheduling, Leplos. Season 2, I need to see some improvements there because this doesn't make any sense. However, again, almost all of these games, not all of them, it, massive playoff implications here. Not in the previous game between San Francisco and Dallas, but Philadelphia and the Gladiators they're fighting for that last spot. So, as we go to run it down, I'm looking at this first map here, Blizzard World, Lepalos. Gladiators, undefeated on Blizzard World, right? What
Yeah,
happened?
and they finally got defeated here. I mean, Jax, the Shadowburn coming out as well
Yeah.
too. You had Shadowburn out here. Uh, what ended up happening here was an amazing. Listen, I don't even know what to say here. Fusion did well to push, but the hold by the Fusion was why they won this map. It wasn't their attack
Right.
primarily. It was primarily their defense that won the day against the LA Gladiators on Blizzard World. Finally gave them a loss here. And you got to be disappointed for formally being undefeated on this map to draw and then lose on Blizzard World in a week where you have it twice and it was one of your best maps.
Yeah.
That's disappointing from the Gladiators. But, from there, Jax, they went on to dominate that A point on Horizon Lunar Colony. And when I say dominate, I mean they held Fusion. Did they even? One sec, let me double check here.
44%.
They got 44%. I was going to say, I know it was low, but it certainly wasn't 2 ticks, but absolutely crushed on that defense. Allowed them to pick up the easy 1-0 on that map. Lijiang Tower was back and forward on that map, ending up going 2-1 for the side of Gladiators. That pushed them to match point on Dorado, which they were able to actually take as well. And Dorado specifically, I wanna just comment how well Carpe did on that map in a losing effort.
Yeah, it's one of those side player things with the Florida Mayhem where you're saying, how does he have numbers that good and his team still lost? Uh, this
I'm just gonna
is
say this, Jax, Sado and Hotba are not as good as everybody has been making them out to be. I'm sorry, they're not. They're not
I think
performing to
they've
the
just
level
been
everyone
found.
expected them.
I think they've just been found out. Because of the weaker
Footage,
schedule, but
yeah.
when they're playing teams that that are ready, it's just the synergy, the number. This team is just out of sorts, basically, like I am right now, trying to find words to describe what's going on here. No EQO again. It's just it's just. I mean, I go to the Twitter. Chef Coach Heidi has got the food coming in for the team. They are getting fed. It's just not popping off like they want. No, not like they want, like they need it to, Lepelos. Because right now, sixth spot to the Gladiators, 21 and 15, positive 16 map differential. Philadelphia in seventh place, 21 and 15 as well, with a positive 11. They've got to get some wins here. These back-to-back losses has moved them out of the playoffs. They're right now. They don't qualify,
Yeah, it's a
and
huge story for sure. Like, I don't know what's like that. There's more than one thing happening here to the Fusion, and it's hard to pinpoint. Like, it's you want to be able to pinpoint things when you are commentating on it. Like, all of us as fans would love to be able to be, oh, it's this guy, but there's not one thing going wrong with them. There's a few things going wrong with them, and teasing out what
speaking.
is the most important is hard, and that's what you have to do if you're the coaching staff of the Fusion. And I'll tell you one thing: it is not Heidi, because that food is looking really
I
good.
do I do want to say, since we focus on Philly a lot and it's the Gladiators, right? We talk about Blizzard World being their map. In previous stages, Hydration did his thing, but in stage 4, Silk Thread has been the guy in that second DPS spot for the Gladiators. And these two games this week, it has been Hydration. And I wish I knew why Coach Depe made this adjustment. They were dominant on their previous Blizzard World performances, and he made this change, and now you've drawn, and now you've lost, and it's like, can we go back to what was winning, to what was working? I don't really understand why they made this adjustment. I think the only other change is, right now they run Void instead of Bishu. Maybe Void and Hydration and Fisher all work together better, which I think that's a stretch. But
Yeah,
I'd like to see Silk Thread back here. Like, one of the strengths is or the Gladiators is the DP. They have what? They have 3, 4 DPS players that they can run here. They have
yeah,
4,
absolutely.
and they're just sitting on Sure 4 and Hydration. Now, when it's clicking, fine. But when you go from winning to drawing and now losing your best map, we need to roll that back, man. I need to see Silk Thread when they play on Blizzard World next time. But we're on to the next game.
Yeah, I was also just wanted to pick up on the Bishu thing. I do think he's playing better with the team more than Void, and I'm a big Void fan, but I don't think he's performing at the level he needs to. And okay, moving on, Jax, it'll be a quick one because we're talking another game with Shanghai Dragons hosting the Houston Outlaws here. 2-0 Kings Row. Never a good start. Listen, that tells me immediately that your tank lining up on Shanghai Dragons. If you get held that badly, formerly one of their better maps.
I mean, okay,
I'll be honest, Gaguri not doing well, right? Like
it's also one of Houston's better maps, right? Like
that is true.
that was the map where the Houston Outlaws they beat the hell out of the Gladiators. And Fisher said, that's because Jake was playing out of his mind. This was
It's
another
more
map
than that.
where I was just gonna say they held Houston from capping it out, and I'm saying this is your chance, and then you don't even take the first point. That's me done with this team, Lepalose. Okay,
I'm just gonna
run through these scores here. I'm done.
No. I mean, I agree with you, but I need to mention because everyone is a big fan of her, and we keep it real here. And I want to just say Gaguri, no kills, 0 kills on Kings Row.
So I know you're looking at the over.gg
I
site.
know.
The one thing I don't like, and the reason why I've stopped bringing up my numbers is Winston Labs has not updated. They're tired too, Leplos. Where
They are
Winston
tired.
Labs normally the Saturday games would be the ones without stats. Now here we are Thursday games, and there aren't even any stats. The numbers on over.gg are final blows. So she didn't get any final blows, whereas she's 0-4 there. I think, but that's bad in itself.
Come on, that's still pretty bad. That's still bad. That's still bad on Kings Row for your Zarya not to have any killing blows, or your Diva, who are both cleanup characters at times, particularly Diva as a cleanup character.
I mean, if you
don't get any finishing blows.
Spree had the same number of deaths, 4, but he had his 10 final blows there. But this was just overall, this team, they came out on attack. They ran the free field Bastion strat because he could finally get kills. By the way, I was being nice when I point out he had a positive elim to death when they played this map the day before Lepalose. It's because he was on Bastion when they went on attack. But I tried.
Anyways,
right? I tried.
You tried.
Let it go, and then you come here and it's like he's back to 5-7, even though he played Bastion again. It's like free field, come on, dude. But yeah.
No, I mean from there though, let's just run it out. They actually do draw Hanamura, which is really good. Puts a little pressure on it. It is, but Lijiang Tower, they're also able to keep it close. 2-1. A watch point Gibraltar. Not so close. 61 seconds when Houston Outlaws cap out. Do not cap out for Dragons. That's a 3-0 for the win here for Outlaws.
I do want to say, and there was a Reddit thread that brought this up. The Houston Outlaws are another team fighting for that final playoff spot. They find themselves at 20-16, a game
7th
below
place or 8th place. Sorry, 8th place.
8th place. But basically a game. They have a better map differential than 2 teams above them. So if they can make up the game difference, then their map differential will put them. Will give them a tiebreaker. You're fighting for a playoff spot, Lepalose. And I get that it's Shanghai, and because you and I have talked about this before, when do you make your substitutions to get people or teach your players that experience, right? You want them to be experienced so that when the time comes and you actually need them, they won't, just be thrown into the deep end. And so, okay, you say it's Shanghai, what better time to get a team experience? Now, would you make a substitution? I don't know, say Jake out, right? You bench Jake. You're, one of the more vocal members of your team, and you bring in Arhan. And yes, Lepalose, you have heard me correctly. You bench Jake for Hanamura, and you bring in Arhan, and you draw a map. And at this point, you're saying, wow, okay, this series is not locked up yet. We need to be careful. But then you leave Arhan in going into Lijiang Tower, and it's 131 in your favor. And you lose the second map 100-85, and then you win the third map 199. So overall, you win Lijiang Tower. But if you're a coaching staff, you're not impressed by that because it's Shanghai. And it was 100-99, and it should have never been that close. Thankfully, though, you get to watch point like, okay, we did it. They didn't, typical Shanghai, they fell apart. But
and
if you're Houston
typical
Outlaws fan,
Houston though too, where they're like, well, that was good enough, right? Like, let's be honest, that's what their attitude is most of the time.
They're not qualified for the playoffs. You can't just say it's good enough, man.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. We've talked about this at length. I'm all for. My preference is if you're going to sub in people that you want to get experiences, 3 maps win, ride the momentum in that fourth map, and you either win or lose that one, and that's okay if you do. And that includes here. I'd be more happy with that loss on that fourth map if they did that, like secured their win, because honestly, that's a better place to bring your second string in than in a situation like this. Obviously, they have a lot of faith in the guy, though. Jax, they've tweeted about him and they brought him out, and well, they won a map and drew the other. So
I gave him the benefit of the doubt because Hanamura was. Remember last week I roasted Jake because his tracer was trash on Hanamura. So I kind of get it. I question bringing in our hand, when you've got Clockwork and the other guy doesn't exist anymore, but Clockwork is still sitting there on the bench. He's so basically he's just collecting the paycheck now. Lepos,
yeah,
we haven't seen Clockwork in a solid minute now.
or
It's
the
just
other DPS that we don't talk
no,
about.
he doesn't exist.
But
But
listen,
I'm
he's being
looking
full
now.
Korean castered on our podcast, Jax.
I
Full Korean
just
castered.
I don't get it, dude. But it's just another in a long line of things about Houston that I don't understand. And we're short on time, so I'm not gonna try to figure it out now because I can't figure it out now. And you're
Uh,
taking us to the next game.
Man, and
Hey,
Jax,
what? Our
you're go,
hands? No,
you're going,
try to
you're
get me
going to
started.
love this one. You're going to love this one.
One.
Map 1. Okay, we're talking Mayhem's versus Soul Dynasty.
No,
Neither of us saw this one happening. We both picked Dynasty.
I watch parts.
Map 1, Blizzard World 1-0, Florida Mayhem. What is going on?
Oh my God.
What is going on, Jax? Oh, what
Logic's
is wrong
in
with the
for
Dynasty?
Xayah
We don't even need to talk about the rest of the match yet. What is going wrong from Map 1 for Dynasty to let this happen?
We should immediately point out Kuki is now in its starting tank. So the Miro experiment or re-experiment is now ended, and
The
Kuki
Jaehong
is now
experiment
tanking
also
it.
ended.
This team Lepalose is in shambles, and sadly, I checked our Twitter. We got no tweets. I don't know if you got any tweets
No,
about
I
you
did not.
saying Miro is gone at the end of the season if they don't
Did
make the playoffs.
I mean, do you think I'm wrong on that, Jax? Like, come on, look at this. Anyways, Kuki might be gone too if he plays like this. Let's be honest. Yeah,
They might keep one or the other just so that they have a backup tank.
backup. Yeah, and it's not going to be Miro. So I'm just warning you guys ahead of time. Like, whatever. He might have done he might have had the time to do that video, Jax. But anyways, that's not here or there.
Yeah.
Blizzard World, horrible attack coming out of Dynasty. Hanamura 2-1. Florida Mayhem again, listless
Lepalose.
attack coming out of
I'm
Soul
sorry.
Dynasty.
It has to be said. You don't capture first point of Blizzard World. You don't capture first point of Hanamura.
I mean, they capture first point. They don't get second point of Hanamura.
Did they? Sorry.
But it took them to overtime, if I
takeover.
remember correctly.
Yes, you're right.
If I'm remembering this right, because I'm going without notes on this one, I think it was overtime that they managed to capture Hanamura a point. So, yeah, it was not a pretty affair coming out of their side, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is, because like if you look by the stats, I mean, maybe it was Logix and Tavik actually having a really good game right there.
Logix did play very well. It's just the Dynasty don't look impressive, but then you go to Hanamura, they lose. You go to Oasis, and you say, wait a minute, 100-47, 100-70. Things have turned around. They've made no adjustments. The same players are still there. They just perform better. But Oasis more of just straight team fighting.
Yeah.
Can you outkill the other team? And as we know, Lepalose, Florida Mayhem are terrible on Oasis. They had that literally 2 weeks ago. They didn't get a kill, not a single kill on Oasis.
Yeah, at least this time they're able to string together a few kills. But like, you're basically letting Dynasty warm up, which they did do here. Getting both rounds, and then they moved into Dorado, and they got into second attack, but they couldn't make it beyond the archway very long, and they didn't defend at all. And Jax, they didn't pull Xayah player in for Dorado. How do they not put him in?
At this point, we didn't know Xayah play is injured. He's got something going on that we don't. I still don't know
sucks.
exactly what it is, but
hopefully not the same thing afflicting effect, but
I know I think this one is actually a physical problem. But then you go to Nepal because the reverse sweep is on the table and it's the Florida Mayhem, and you saying, okay, they took the first round, 171. It's match point. Soul are on the ropes. Then it goes 174 Soul Dynasty. You're like, okay, we got ourselves a game. And you come to the final round of Nepal, 100-0 in favor of the Soul Dynasty to complete the reverse sweep. And at this point, you're saying to yourself, or you're saying in Twitch chat, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. It's
Absolutely
Florida.
not. I'm not. Listen, this is one of those games where you're disappointed on both sides. Like, this is not a win for Soul Dynasty in anything but the technical sense, and that shouldn't feel good if you're a fan of Dynasty. You know, I'm sorry for Toasty Lock out there who's listening to us later probably. I know you'd probably give me a feels bad man in chat right now, but it honestly, you cannot be impressed with your team when you come out against the Mayhem looking so flat and barely squeak by on that Nepal here, and you also didn't have to face a Saya player from the Mayhem, because I think if he's available here, Jax, if he's available here, they would have lost. They would have lost.
They put up the stats. Maybe not this game, in the next game, where it shows Logic's numbers are there. Like his his little numbers are not bad. I think in some categories he's better than Saya players. His are more spread out. It's not as like when Saya player pops off, it's like 3 dead. Okay,
it's like a fight you win. Yeah. Whereas Logic's
win a fight. Except I say Singham win a fight, except he can kill 3 and they still lose the fight. But Lepalose, let me just give you, these are just final blow numbers here. Take a look at Zuppy here, who played Moira and Zen for the Dorado for Nepal, 1-7, and then you go look at Ri Jae Hong, his counterpart, 13-3. Like that's.
I think Zepe has to realize that the best he can do in season 2 will be a backup position to somebody else at this point.
What about Zebasai? I mean, I think they're both. I question.
I think both of them. I think both of them are going to struggle to find positions on teams, but it depends on how many expansion teams are out there. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see in time. Speaking of time, we need to move along. Boston Uprising versus San Francisco Shock. You and I obviously both picked the Shock here for good reason. And I think that's reasonable considering everything going in.
Coach Krusty Lepalose, he's got something to prove here.
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. And it well, it was a close one, Jax. It was really close overall, except for Hanamura, which was not close. But Kings Row 3-2 going inside of the Shock. A good start for them, starting with a hold in that third phase. Big there. Their Hanamura attack, though, completely shut out by I think largely the DPS of the Uprising coming through on defense there for a 2-0 victory on Hanamura. Lijiang Tower, another back and forward round, of course, where we had a 2-1 victory going the side of the Shock, putting us onto a watch point Gibraltar that got a little hairy here. Defenses again not showing up here for either side as it goes 5-4, but that 5-4 the side of the Shock to close it out with a 3-1 victory, and the redemption of Krusty over his old
Very
Uprising team.
Series made even more entertaining by the analyst desk with Bryn and the Church of Krusty, a photograph, and the antics between him and Golden Boy and Sideshow. Boston's still trying to figure things out, Lepalose. I think here at times, San Francisco at times kind of surprised that they went and dive with Genji Tracer, and it's like, don't know why you're doing that, but and they were kind of punished on it on Hanamura. But I guess what I'm trying to say, Boston is improving. They're just not there yet, right? Because you look at what San Francisco did against Dallas, a team you and I both rate somewhat highly in this stage, and they beat the crap out of Dallas. And then here they play Boston, and it was a little middling performance at times.
It honestly was. I was disappointed. Like, again, this wasn't as bad as Seoul, but it was definitely a bit of a disappointment coming out of the Shock here. Maybe Boston specifically tried to show up Shock by performing very well in this one. There's a lot of something to prove amongst their players and our staff, and it didn't pay off for them, which is also telling. But Shock here getting the win, and ultimately a win is a win is a win, right, Jax? I believe that's what you've told me a few times.
That is how it goes.
And they got the win here. Let's move on, though. Last day, Jax. I picked the London Spitfire here.
I don't know what you were thinking.
I don't know what I was thinking either, Jax. It was 1-0 Blizzard World, 1-0 Lunar Colony, 2-0 Lijiang Tower for the Dallas Fuel. What a brutal, quick series this was.
This was
It was so bad. And then out of nowhere, a 5-4 watch point Gibraltar win for a 3-1 victory overall for the field. But Spitfire on that Gibraltar, where were they the rest of the game? God, awful performance
solid
by
play
Spitfire.
out of Dallas. This was more the Dallas team that I expected to see show up against San Francisco, but San Francisco was just ready for them. London here, I take you back to the coaching. I still don't know what the coaching situation is like over there, Lepalos. The team has now been streamlined. They've gotten rid of they've benched or moved them to the inactive roster of 4 players. So they've only got this 6 here that they're working with. So you expect a lot more focus, expect them to be crisp. It's not there. I'm still just looking at the Genji and the Tracer coming out. It's Dallas Fuel. And Hex can say however much he wants. I've seen people run Tracer against Baggett. You just got to pick your moments and pick your spots.
Yeah, right.
Hex, I like you. Stop talking about that, please. Just go to a corner somewhere, find ZP, wherever they've been, whatever closet he's been shoved into, and take your Tracer versus Baggett and stick it in there next to him. Mickey played out of his mind again.
I don't know why they let him get away with all this stuff. I mean, really great play.
Tracer into Mickey.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And Jax, I have also mentioned it too, and I still believe this is also true, which is Mickey picks up heroes quick. I believe that's why his Diva was good when it was good.
Yeah.
Other teams not there on the Brigitte strats yet, so going to be an issue. Let's move on, though. If we're talking about coaching, we need to talk about NYXL coaching, because I want to go through this quickly and get the scores out before you jump in here. Blizzard World 3-0 New York Excel versus LA Valiant. Rising Lunar Colony 1-0 Valiant against NYXL. Oasis 2-0 NYXL. Valiant 3-2 Gibraltar, and then Nepal 2-1 Valiant. Sorry, I might have messed up. Gibraltar. It was Valiant that won that, and then Nepal 2-1 for Valiant as well to win the game in a 3-2 series. Jax, are Valiant really good? Do you think this is Valiant performing exceptionally well?
Against the Gladiators, yes. The Valiant played high. The Valiant played at a level higher than I thought possible for them. It actually made me wake up to them, because previously I didn't rate them very highly. I figured the schedule was in their favor. They beat up on a lot of low-level teams, and then they beat the Gladiators, who I feel have been playing very strong this stage. So when that happened, okay. So now you're saying, well, Jackson, if you think, if their performance at the Gladiators made you wake up, you got to be fully woke now. They have beaten the New York Excelsior, giving them only their 4th loss of the season. No, not at all. The New York Excelsior are on vacation. They have qualified for the playoffs. They have locked up first place throughout the entire league. Nothing can happen there. I don't remember what interview it was, but the coach for the New York Excelsior said, this is not verbatim, but he basically said, I don't care about this stage. Then it shows. When you look at the antics that Pine, the big boss man, is pulling on Watch Point Lepalos with the Widow. Are you kidding me, dude? This team needs to be careful about what they do, because, and people might disagree with me, I feel like it could affect the integrity of the league. Let's just say the Gladiators had beaten the Valiant, right? And so first place in the Pacific Division is now, I think, 1 game apart at that point. And if you're the Gladiators and you're saying, okay, they're going to play New York, that's going to be a loss for them. That's going to be in our favor. And then you look at this performance and you're saying, what just happened here? Why are they not trying? This is
concerning.
Lepalos, if this were a traditional sport, they would be roasted. Monty
not only that,
put up the Twitter picture, which you and I both loved. He said he found it was a picture of the New York Excelsior team, and they were all a bunch of sandbags. Absolutely brilliant. But that's a joke. That's laughing. If this were traditional sport Lepalos, I promise you they would get roasted for this. They would get roasted. You cannot do this.
I mean, this is an esport. If this was in Korea, there'd be potentially even an investigation levied at them for match fixing. Let's be honest, it's that severe. It is that severe. Okay, maybe I'm being a little bit much airy, but there's a potential here that I mean, they just look like they dropped the game on purpose. I don't know what else to say about it.
I mean, here's the thing, Lepalos. there were already I saw a thread on Reddit, the competitive Overwatch Reddit. This was not about this game. It was against the Boston versus San Francisco Shock game, and the guy he was asking for betting advice. And people, don't go to Reddit for your betting advice, please. Please
Yeah.
don't. Like, be responsible with your gambling habits. That public service announcement aside, here in the States, the legislation is moving more towards allowing this kind of thing, and in other parts of the world, it is allowed. And there you can gamble basically on the Overwatch League right now, Leplos, and this is this is this is disappointing because New York, you're the best team. Play it, play like you are.
Yeah,
I
don't
just
hide that.
don't please don't
and
do
don't hold back. Don't hold back. Right?
this.
Like,
We'll see.
Jax, let's get into the final game of the week. Holding back, nothing. There's nothing held back here. Florida Mayhem gave everything, and it was just not good enough. Sort of a crazy one at the end, but let's go through it. 3-2 Blizzard World Outlaws as they host Florida Mayhem. 1-0 Horizon Lunar Colony. Disappointing for Houston to get full held on 8 point. Oasis 2-0 for Outlaws. And then Watchpoint Gibraltar, where Lynxer again, amazing work in a 6-5. Jax, I said a 6-5 on Watchpoint Gibraltar. It's like teams are getting worse at this map.
100% throw by the Florida Mayhem. Because you look at that and you're saying, wow, what kind of time banks did these two teams have? I don't remember the exact numbers, the time. I know that Houston had less than the Florida Mayhem. In 1 minute, Houston went the entire stretch of Watchpoint levels.
Yeah.
That is a very long map, and they did it twice. And I
you
remember
didn't
sitting
get
there in
held that
Twitch
second
chat,
time.
and some random person says, "Chat, you cannot be surprised. It's Florida," and he's not wrong. You can no longer be surprised when Florida finds some random way to lose. I take you back to Junkertown, that one game in Stage 3 where Saya player pops off and kills 4 people, and they still lose the fight, Lepalose.
I'm just
Florida.
we already did some
Florida Mayhem fans.
We already did some over.gg comments, and I think these two are number 1 and number 2 again are worth commenting on because it's hilarity with what you just said. Soft Whisper says winnable. Hippie Man 444 says Florida win for the triple upset ? Oh man, are you kidding me? People, be realistic. Let's be realistic. They weren't going to win this one.
Lepalose.
No, I'm not disappointed in their play because my expectations of them are so low. I'm more disappointed in Houston Outlaws dropping Horizon Lunar Colony without taking 8 point. That is an upset.
This, for a team trying to make the playoffs, they've got 2 CP issues. You know how you and I feel about you being bad at a specific game mode. You can't allow it to happen. Hanamura, we know, is bad for them. Now we're seeing Horizon Lunar Colony just as bad. They had no counter for the Junkrat. It boggles my mind. When you have the best Junkrat in the league, how do you not have a plan to beat yourself? You have to. I'm sorry. You have to have a plan to beat the Junkrat. The Veek was like, I'm just going to spam you to death, and you're not going to do anything about it. Like, Jake was still in. They didn't sub out Jake, which I'm about to get to, Lepalose, because since they didn't win Horizon Lunar Colony, when you get to the final map of Watchpoint Gibraltar, it's 2-1. You do not have the series locked up. You do not have a playoff spot. Why am I once again seeing our hand?
Jax, it's because Mendo Kusai is not available to go in yet.
I don't know who that person is. I'm the only reason because see when they came out, they ran double sniper. We have heard Fisher praise Jake for his Hanzo play. Jake, who has been known to be a vocal shot caller for the team. Why is he bet? You have not won anything. When I go and I look at what Zoe is talking about, or what the general manager says, I'm so proud of my team. You know why he's proud of his team, Lepalose? Because they're using some Korean phrases in order to keep Arhan in the loop because he speaks no English.
And yet he doesn't fulfill a role that is that different for the rest of the team that they also don't need in the current stage. And you're wondering why they're trying to pull this all together as season 1 ends. Very good questions, Jax, but that's the end of our coverage for Overwatch.
Are you understanding here, man? You don't have the playoffs. He doesn't. You're trying out new communication before you've got the series won.
Yeah, listen, I'm disappointed in Outlaws, but this is not the first time So I'm not surprised. I'm not
Oh my
surprised.
goodness, dude. This
I,
team,
not the only team that's struggling with like large
and
scale
Florida,
decision
go
making
away,
issues.
okay? Just go away, Florida. Just go. Hold
Oh,
Lepalose, 2 maps they threw. That last map watch when the guy says
oh
chat,
my goodness,
you
yes.
cannot be surprised. It's Florida.
They could have won the match, but as I said, I'm
Lepalose.
not
If
surprised. The
side
only thing
player
I'm
is that
surprised,
injured, that if
yeah,
it's a long-term injury, blow this team up. I don't want to see anybody. Get them all out of here. All of them. Even to be who I like. Just get rid of them. This is
yeah,
trash, dude. Go
okay.
back and watch that watch point. It's absolute trash.
I'm
And
not I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I do have to say is we need to move on. We're moving over to a different beat, and of course I'm talking about Beat Invitational season 4. Uh, some we talked about this coming up. We can just go through what happened here. There were 8 teams: Bye Week, Energy Esports, Grizzly Esports, Last Night Leftovers, Karasuno, Envision Esports, No Clout, and Goats. Now, the big ones going into this one that you might have expect would have been probably a few names that you've seen in contenders, I believe, like Envision, NRG, Last Night Leftovers, and Bye Week also, and No Clout as well, all being in there. I mean, Last Night Leftovers, decent chance as well.
if I remember
But
correctly, Goats is I forget what their original name was. Not Goats. I think they just missed out on contenders by like a game or two. They are the Xbox team. They 3 or 4 of their players transitioned from Xbox to PC, and they've been playing somewhat toxic, but that's drama. We're not gonna go into that.
I'll go into that.
So they
I mean,
are
hopefully
a
they're
known
over that, but
quantity. Yeah.
unfortunately, they actually get beaten in the quarterfinals, the upper bracket. This is double
Okay.
elimination, so
Okay.
they immediately get beaten by Envision Esports 2-0.
All
So
right.
they're out of there. And Envision moves up to the semi. Other quarterfinal in that bracket: Grizzlies 2-0 over Last Night Leftovers, NRG 2-0 over No Clout, Karasuno 2-0 over Bye Week.
There was a
Upper
draw, sorry, in the Grizzlies versus Last Night Leftovers game. Temple of Anubis drawed 4-4. So, it's still 2-0. It's just there was, a little draw in there.
201. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I did not look the close details, and in fact I did not watch every single game. I did pay attention to some every now and then, particularly as
I
we
mean, to
got
be
closer
fair,
to the
levels,
finals.
I,
But
I, I kind of feel like I need to apologize just because in the past, this is something you and I both would have watched and had, some vague
notes on,
notes
yeah,
on. But at the top of the top of the start of the episode where we talked about the fatigue and just being tired, I can't. Like it hurts the quality of our show, which is why I'm apologizing because, in the past you and I would watch this. It's just there are limits to how much of Overwatch you can consume.
yeah,
And mine is being met right now by Overwatch League. But
yeah,
we can at least run it down for those who, didn't watch it themselves. We can give you some numbers. We just can't give you specifics like we normally would have. And for that, we're sorry, but we're humans. We have limits. You're
yeah.
taking it to the semifinals though.
Listen, we have our limits, and we podcast within it. Okay, winners finals ends up being Energy taking on Envision Esports. Energy winning that one in a pretty solid 3-1. Meanwhile, in the lower bracket, Jax, I started this off saying Goats losing to Envision Esports 2-0. In the bottom bracket, all the way from the losers round one, Goats 2-0 over Last Night's Leftovers, 2-0 over Karasuno, 2-0 over Bye Week. In the losers final, they get redemption over Envision, 2-0 over Envision in the losers final. And Jax, Goats grand finals 3-0 over NRG Esports, including, I believe, there's a bit of, at one point, spawn camping, I believe, on Route 66. I'm not sure if you saw that one in the second attack and first attack as well. They held up nice and close. I did see that one. Might be worth checking out just to see what they did there against Energy Esports. You can't be happy. But if you're a Ghost fan, you are, because, here they are, 3-0, winner of the Beat Invitational.
I know
And now
they're
you're
not
worried
a
about
well-liked
depth.
team. Like I said, they've been somewhat toxic in the community. Fantastic performance out of them. I wish I had watched it.
Yeah.
I did not know that they didn't drop a single map. Like to lose to Envision 2-0 in the quarterfinals, and to then go to run the gauntlet, 5 games, Levelos, without dropping. To beat Envision 2, like when you say they won 2-0 on Kings Row, it was 2-hold, full hold. Lijiang Tower 2-0. Like Envision playoff, it was a contenders playoff team, Lepelos. They
Yeah.
went out early in it, but they made it to the playoffs. NRG, another solid contenders academy team. A lot of known names on NRG. Gotta be disappointed if you're these teams. Have to be disappointed if you're NRG, who energy a little bit, out of their hands when it comes to contenders because they lost Damon, they lost Moth to the Overwatch League, so they had two of their main DPS and their main support taken away from them, and so now they're trying to fight their way back, trying to make their name for themselves, and to lose like this, gotta be disappointed. But fantastic result for Gold. I'm look now. We're getting back into open division. And we're gonna move then into contenders. I want to see if Goats is ready to step it up. Lepos, can they move to the next stage and challenge a team like the Fusion University? We'll
Yeah,
see.
these are very, very good questions. We'll see what they're going to do. Maybe I have to look actually to see if they are in the open division and got through there. But
I
I
think
haven't paid
they
attention.
won
That's something we'll
open.
look at in the future, Jax. Let's go ahead though, talk about something else that happened. Dreamhack Austin Texas Takedown.
What?
That happened. A major name here, or sorry, the major name here by week showing
When
up.
did this
But
happen?
you have this listed. It happened in started on the first, ended today.
The
So
first was 2 days. Okay, so
started on
basically it
Friday.
happened this weekend level.
Yeah, it was this weekend. It's Dreamhack.
Okay.
So
No.
bye week, oddly enough, gets a bye off the start. Okay, anyways, I just wanted to say that I'm just going to get to the semifinals. Bye week 2-0 over 15% off. 6 backpacks 2-0 over 12 nights. 12 nights, while their logo is nice and one of the only other teams with a logo, they were only able to take third place match off of 15% off. And bye week wins 3 over in the grand finals against 6 backpacks to win this Texas takedown. But probably not a surprise there, since they're probably the most practice team. I did want to mention that it looked like there was a contender, or a team called GCU Esports, and I'm wondering if that was a university team.
Not sure. We'll have to do some investigation.
Maybe not.
A brief investigation, Lepelos, into North American Open Division Season 2. It had concluded. The winners were Goats, who in the upper bracket final, they lost to Karasuno, a team that was also in the Beat Invitational, and then they went down lower division. They won that lower bracket, sorry, and then they came back up into the grand finals and they beat Karasuno 4-2 to take the second season of Open Division. So they have qualified for trials.
Yeah.
You know how they go.
It's a long goat pathway to pro.
Very long path.
Jack, goat path though.
We'll see how. I mean, but by
it's
week,
a
Goats,
path.
Karasuno, Last Night, Les Lovers, Grizzlies, Simplicity, all these teams will be in trials for North America. I'm just trying to keep people up to date, Leplo. So you will get to see more of them as Goats goes from Beat Invitational, Open Division, now to trials. If they win trials, then they're into contenders where they're facing the big dogs, but they got to get there. We will see.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Goats and some of these teams that are in contenders, Jax, we have another thing that has started. Yes, there is the Overwatch PIT Championship North America Season 3, as well as Europe. Let's go North American first. Yes, we're biased. Quarterfinals already have happened. Envision Esports winning 3-0 over Karasuno. Last night, Leftovers 3-1 over Grizzly Esports. Other side of the bracket, which hasn't happened yet, Goats taking on Fusion University. That's going to be an interesting one. I think I'll try and pay attention what happens there. And Energy Esports taking on Mirage Sport.
I did not notice that on the schedule, Lepelos. When is this game?
In 16 hours. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah, 3 o'clock PST.
Yeah, people.
On
I know
Monday.
I said I'm tired. I'm going to watch this. I might have to set an alarm clock. Lepelos, remind me on Discord.
Alarm clock for 3.
Watch this, okay?
I'll try my best. I'll try my best if I'm around. Okay, let's go talk about the European one. The European one has had both quarterfinals played, and starting with Northern Lights winning 3-0 over Samsung Morningstar's Blue. Eagle Gaming 3-0 over Cord Narwhals. CIS Hope losing here, Jax. They lost to Six Snakes. Six Snakes winning over CIS Hope.
Okay, looking at Six Snakes, I see some familiar names.
There's some good.
Nesh, Christopher. Okay, so Korean coach. What? Wait, have you looked at the flag meta for Six Snakes?
Yeah,
France, Germany, France, UK, Israel. Is this Swiss? No, Denmark. Sorry, South Korean coach.
Have you looked at their symbol? Have you looked at their symbol with the flags on the snake? Come on, also great.
Fantastic by this team here. They have a South Korean coach and a Portuguese coach with 2 Frenchmen, a German, a Brit, an Israeli, and a Dane.
Listen, Overwatch League ready, Jax. Part of the UN Overwatch League that we're gonna have to.
What are they using over there?
Probably English.
The CIS Hope gotta be disappointed.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Sharik. Wow, dude.
Yeah. No, that's in my opinion. That's probably a bit of an upset there.
Yes, sir.
Down in the bottom of the quarterfinals, we had Bird Boys taking on Team Singularity in a close one here too. It's a 3-2 Team Singularity just getting by. And by the way, Bird Boys, they have only Watt7 and Vainless that I know on this one. And maybe Micker.
Did you look at Samsung Morningstar Blue? They got some Dance Line Pro.
Yep, Luft. I think we've seen Italian as well. But Dance, yeah, that's an interesting one.
What's going on? See, this is the problem when you have fatigue. You miss out on things like this. Normally, I'd like to stay up to date on these players who we once knew and have disappeared because they didn't make it into Overwatch League. Let me just throw out
Jax,
a name for you, Lepalose. Grego. Like,
yeah,
you forgot Grego even existed.
No, I mean I know. Where is he playing? I didn't look.
He doesn't play Overwatch anymore, dude.
You're just saying he's
Quake all the time.
Oh, see, I thought you were saying he was one of these teams. He's not, Jax. Speaking of one of these teams, 2 of them are going out in the losers round 1. Cord Narwhal's beating those Samsung Morningstar's blue. By the way, where is the other color? I don't know. But anyways,
it's gotta be red. It's got
Bird Boys also going out as CIS Hope beat them in a 3. Although they did draw on Anubis, Jax, a 5-5 on Temple of Anubis. What a 2 CP round that must have been, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad I didn't see that one. No offense to those teams, but
that would be rough.
Oh man, that would not be interesting. Okay, those are the PIT, NA, and EU, and that's the end of the rundown section, Jax. But we are not done yet. We have to do our preview for Overwatch League Stage 4, Week 4, which is happening right now. I mean, predictions are happening right now.
Okay. I don't know if I got any Black Star predictions in me, Lepos. I'm kind of tired.
I mean, we're starting with a hard one, right off of day 1. Okay. It's Seoul Dynasty versus Boston Uprising. Like, this is somewhat difficult.
The last 2 weeks, Lepos, I've been saying when we do these, I've been saying to myself, sooner or later, Boston has to win one. This is what I've been saying, right? I thought it was the last week. The previous week when Boston collapsed against, who was it? The Valiant. Yeah, in week 2. Now is it Boston's time?
Is it Boston's time?
Really bad. Wait, what are the maps? What are the maps? Hold on, what are the maps? Blizzard World, Horizon Lunar Colony, Lijiang Tower, and Dorado. Oh, God.
It's a hard one. Jax, You're going Dynasty. I was going to go Dynasty too. I cannot pick the Uprising right now. They have looked bad.
The Clockman, aka the Clockman. He's a big Dynasty guy. Here's the problem though for Toasty Lock and other Dynasty fans. Sooner or later, Boston has to win one. There's a very good chance this is it because the Dynasty looked terrible. I'm hoping they stick with Kuki, and this will be another solid week of preparation that he gets in the starting position. But if they rotate tanks again, then feel free to change my pick to the Boston University Uprising. Because
listen, they had to go back to university to get their second degree because they were put out of jobs come stage 4. Anyways, Jax, I agree with you. Dynasty has a way that they can drop the ball here against the Uprising, but I have to go with them. This is one of those close ones. It's not a sure pick, but speaking of that not being a sure pick, we got Shanghai Dragons, Florida Mayhem, second game here. I have to go Mayhem. I'm just going to say it. I am not picking Shanghai Dragon.
At this point, until they win, you kind of have to. If Florida loses here, I'm telling you, right?
Florida can find a new way to throw here, right? And it can be such an original way to throw that they would be the first team to lose to Shanghai Dragons. It can happen.
Florida lose. Not going to bet on it. Lepalose, if the Shanghai Dragons win, we have to give them full coverage. We've already said it. When they win, they get full coverage.
I mean, you're right. So this I'm double hoping against Mayhem.
I just can't. I cannot pick Shanghai anymore. I've tried twice, I think. I can't do it. I can't. They look terrible. And Florida, even without side player, Logix has stepped up, somewhat back to where he used to be. And Shanghai, I can't. So Florida, and then I'll take Dallas in the next one.
We've got to stop getting ahead here, Jax. Dallas Fuel taking on the Houston Outlaws. Are you not picking the Outlaws in our hands, Genji and his awesome Dragon Blades against
Hanamura in the pool? Dallas, who was it? They completely steamrolled on Hanamura. Who was it? It was London, I think. No, not London. It was
Boston. No, sorry. Was it? San Francisco?
Yeah.
No, it was Fusion. It was Fusion. I think it was Fusion in week 2.
Again,
anyways,
whoever it is, it doesn't matter because the Dallas Fuel are going to win because Houston is terrible. They're going to try to throw our hand out here again.
God, I have the same feeling with you here. I think they will put our hand out here, and I think he will die to Mickey. And I think we're just going to be wondering, why did they do that? Why did they not try again? A Junkrat from Jake? And listen. I'm not saying Linkser can't pop off and carry Houston again, but he's cooled down from week 1 again already.
That was week 4. What do you mean? That was 3 weeks ago.
Let's move on to day 2, though, in
Kings
week
Row
4.
Could go in the favor of Houston. It's one of their better maps, but it's also a really good map for Mickey. Unless he has to play Zarya, then they're screwed. So that one could go either way. Hanamura, Houston, terrible Hanamura. Lijiang Tower and Dorado. Yeah, I'm going Dallas. I'm good with Dallas.
Okay, moving into day 2, though, we had Valiant versus London. I was Dallas too, by the way. But here we had Valiant versus London Spitfire. After last week, cannot pick Spitfire in this matchup. I mean, Valiant playing very well this stage, or at least well enough to beat their opponents when needed, and it's going to happen here.
I'm taking Valiant. The thing about London, and this has been the case the entire season, their team has so much raw talent that on any given day they can beat New York. They can beat anyone they want if they ever figure it out. If the coaching staff ever, realizes that they need to hire Bishop back. Although I think Bishop lost the confidence of the team, so he won't ever be coming back.
Yeah, I think there is team dynamic issues.
The raw talent of London is such that they can beat anyone in this league. They don't have it right now. The Valiant do. I have to take the Valiant. If you're a gambling person, be careful because, like I said, London very much a dark horse.
Speaking of LA, Jax, you got Gladiators taking on NYXL, and first game of the week, Jax, shields up, man. Our shields up.
Lepalose, if they had beaten the Valiant last week, if they hadn't gotten completely outplayed and outcoached and outstratted, no hesitation for me to take the Gladiators over the Excelsior. That being said, I'm still taking the Gladiators over the Excelsior until the Excelsior showed me they're still playing. If they see more nonsense, then you say
that, Jax.
They can mess around and beat teams. It's just
but their nonsense still pushed Valiant to 5. Valiant left at this point through the stage undefeated only because of that. Whereas Gladiators have shown weakness, including losing to Valiant strongly in last week.
I know you're going to take New York. I don't
absolutely. I am taking New York, and there we are. Okay, we're moving on to game 3 of day 2. We're doing Shock versus Fusion. Listen. Shock doing great. Fusion not doing great. It's not going to be a surprise here when I take the Shock. Krusty's been doing work with them. They still have some ups and downs, inconsistency issues, but those are magnified way more for Philadelphia Fusion these days. And Fusion under pressure going to fall apart here.
I'm taking San Francisco as well. The thing is, this is a must-win game. Okay, not exactly a must-win because of who the Gladiators are playing, and there's a very good chance that they lose to New York Excelsior. But putting that aside, Philadelphia has got to win this. They cannot suffer a loss here. They cannot lose this game if they want to make the playoffs. Yeah. Because the very next game, Lepalose, well, I guess we'll come to it. The very next day they play Soul Dynasty, which is another must-win game for them. San Francisco, but wow, Philly! If you're a Philly fan, you need to hope Coach Chef Heidi brings the heat, man. Like gets
something spicy in there,
gets them going because they need it badly.
Maybe some sandwiches, which they appear to like. Okay, Jax, we're moving to day 3 though. We have Uprising versus Shanghai Dragons, and Jax, I can finally agree with you. Uprising going to get a win here.
What if I said, Level? Sooner or later, they have to win.
It's
one
going to be against
series.
Shanghai Dragons. We don't need to go into depth here.
Nope.
I don't think whatsoever.
Need it for the next one, Lepalose. You already know who I'm going to pick. You already know. Dallas.
We're moving to game 2. It's Mayhem versus Fuel, and I have to agree with you. I mean, Mayhem, we know how many ways that they can throw, and they're gonna absolutely crash here against Dallas Fuel. So we're already done and through that one. In fact, man, day 3, this is not looking great. I mean, game 3 will be good. Game 3 will make up for games 1 and 2 on day 3. It's Fusion versus Soul Dynasty. And obviously, anything can happen. Okay, but that aside, expectation, this one
game.
Really interesting.
Okay, playoff. Both teams right now are 21-15. The Dynasty have a positive 16 map differential, positive 11 for the Philadelphia Fusion. Lepalose.
Yeah, but here's the problem I have. Okay, let's talk about this from top to bottom. Tanks first and foremost. Tanks of Fusion have not been impressing, and then you have so much uncertainty in the tank line of Dynasty in their main tank position that's a hard comparison to make. Do you give tank lineup? Who do you give the edge to there? I think it's Fusion. I think.
Okay.
DPS wise.
Kings Row with Zumba.
Yeah, with Zumba.
Pop off on Kings Row with the Zarya. Fantastic Zarya player if they let him play it, and they should let him play it. Mix that up with Fleta. Yeah.
I think Kings Row should go Dynasty way, right? But
yeah.
But let's talk about DPS players then next, Jax, right? Then you have Carpe. Is Carpe going to hit well this week? Are we seeing Shadowburn in over EQO? And what's going on? Why is that? And who is he actually going to perform this week?
I feel like they just had to try something. Like the performance the previous week or previous 2 weeks had been so bad that they're like, okay, Shadowburn, you're in.
Bench EQO, get him resorted a bit.
Wow. The reason why I really don't. This is a coin flip. This is a coin flip.
This is a hard one.
As much as I don't want them to, because I guess it doesn't really matter for the Gladiators' sake, because both teams, it's Dynasty.
Jax is going Dynasty.
Wait too much time, Dynasty. I just gotta say it, Dynasty. But holy crap, don't put money on this game. Don't do it.
I am going with Fusion on this one, Jax, because I think they have a little bit more solidarity in their tank lineup, as I said there. But I don't feel super confident either.
If I can change my pick after their first game, Soul, on Wednesday, I'll know more.
See, but we're not allowed to do that. We're a podcast. Things are set in stone way early.
Okay,
that's just how it goes. Day 4. Listen, I said this before. Spitfire have sucked recently. They're taking on the Gladiators. They will continue.
Who's better than Fisher? Hello, London? Hello, Gladiators, London here. Can we have Fisher back? No, you can't. He's gonna kill you again. Yeah. Blizzard World, first map. I'm telling you right now, Silk Thread. If I don't see Silk Thread, I'm gonna, no, they don't live. Where are the Gladiators located at? I'll find their house and ask Deepay why the hell Silk Thread is not playing. But yeah.
Okay, so that we're both Gladiators on this one, Jax. I do think Gladiators have it in them to beat London Spitfire in their current form. Spitfire.
I'm hoping that the pressure of the playoffs is good for the Gladiators. Right? I'm hoping they can handle it. I'm hoping the coaching staff has prepared them. All of these games are must win for this team, especially since they lost to the Valiant. If they had beat the Valiant, they would have a little breathing room. They have none, Lepalose. If you're a Gladiator and you want to make the playoffs, you want to make that money, you want to get that signing bonus for next year, you must play to win from here on out. You must.
You're not wrong. We can end this one off, I think, fairly quickly. We had NYXL versus Shock coming up next. Do you think Shock really has it in them to beat NYXL?
Oh boy. Can I answer after they play their first game of the week?
You mean NYXL particularly,
both
right?
Actually, if I can answer you Friday after both these teams play on Thursday.
You got to pick now, though. You got to pick now. And honestly, I don't think I have already said NYXL is going to beat Gladiators. I'm going to say the same here against Shock. Raw talent will win the day easily against these teams right now. Both of these teams.
Jax Blake taking Coach Krusty to the bank.
Wow. Okay, that's a bit of a black star pick in my opinion, but
I can't. I'm so close to throwing a Black Star tag on it, but I don't know what the odds are, and I don't want people to lose their houses betting on this Lepalose.
Listen, anytime you take a Black Star pick, that
Oh
honestly is
man.
against the
Okay.
odds. So you should know
Oh
that
boy.
one I
This
feel is
is
against it.
this is wow. This could be a good game, man. It could be a
It
really
it
good
definitely
game.
can be, but I'm just saying. I think the talent there on NYXL, even when they're maybe not playing their best or perhaps purposely
Huh.
not playing their best strats,
Huh.
will have the edge against Shock here.
This
Takes us into
is
the final game of Houston Outlaws for Valiant for the week. That's where we
Valiant.
end things. I can't go with Houston here.
No.
I have to go with Valiant. So Valiant it is. There's a lot of reasons. Outlaws just not.
Okay.
There's a way that they win here. There's two.
Unbeaten. The Valiant are unbeaten. They have beaten the best competition, right? New York and Los Angeles. They beat them both last week. As much as people, I'm still yes, they had their moment against the Gladiators. Fantastic. I can't really count the New York Excelsior game. I can't. I'm sorry. They're close. They're close to being the real deal. I have not given them my seal of approval just yet, but they're good enough to beat Houston, who our hand low.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you pretty much right there. There are the pathway to winning here for Houston, because there is one. Links are popping off, soon going quiet. That's my brief.
That Blizzard World, man. Lepalose? He has never played that well as Widow.
I mean, there was one time in I think stage 2 or stage 3 where he did one time. Yeah,
he dominated Sure 4, man.
Yeah, he did. But here, though, I don't think the domination will come out from Linkser as much as needed in order for Houston to make up for the rest of the team. Valiant's going to win this one, and that ends our predictions for the week. But that also ends our podcast.
Over under 2 maps for our hand against the Valiant.
Over under 2. It's going to be under for Valiant.
Okay.
All right. Jax, that does end our podcast, though. So
okay, how about
Overwatch rundown.
Dallas?
Are you? We're not. How much against Dallas? He was going to do.
And Janice, and we stopped doing Mano and Janice, so now we're going to do our hand. Over under 2 games for our hand
maps
against Dallas Fuel.
2 maps against Dallas Fuel.
Oh, they do that. They're gonna get that. Okay, all right. I mean, he plays the baguette. I don't think he plays it as well as Mickey, although Mickey playing baguette so well, man. I gotta give him props for that because his diva previously was good. I gave him crap for how his Zarya play, his diva play fell off, but I have to give him props for what Mickey is doing with the baguette. Wow, he's playing that hero very well.
Jax. We are calling it there, though. That's the end of the rundown. Guys, do reach out to us on Twitter at OW Rundown. I'm at Lepalose. He is at Jax_Blake. You can watch us live on Twitch, Twitch TV/Lepalose, YouTube/Lepalose. Anywhere else you wanna reach out to us? Let us know. And
stop by
Jax,
the Discord, hang out, talk to us.
Yeah, we're on Discord. Seek that out, and yeah, we're both tired, so I think this is a natural place to call it.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
The Spectrum didn't let me down today. Yet. Too bad they're soon to be gone.
All right.
I really think it's my neighbor. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it